Hey, Scott Purdom here, and I wanted to explain the best way to get your horse used to our bitless halter. One of the biggest questions I always get is how do I get my horse transition from the bridle over to bitless? A lot of people get very scared thinking the fact that they do not have the same control. So I wanted to make this really quick video to show you how to get your horse ready for that transition. As you can see right now, I've got the bridle in the horse's mouth here, and a couple of things that I want to make sure that I can do before I ever go bitless is make sure I have that control with the bit. First thing I want to make sure that I can do is when I pick up on one rein that horse softens this way to me. Now right here, this horse is a little stiff right here, right? You see how when I'm pulling, he's going with it, but he's not actually very soft. So what I might need to do is make sure I take an extra second and I say, hey, why don't you get a little softer to that pressure before I go bitless? Okay, let's do this here. Let's make this a little simpler. Let's put the reins over the head here. So I can pull on one rein, there we go, get a little softer, then get a little softer this way. I want to get that softness, there we go. And the biggest part of softness is getting from that beginning point to about 30 to 45 degrees over. I'm not looking for them to really soften all the way around, but in that beginning, 30 to 45 degrees. So if I pick up on that rein, you need to get a little softer to that pressure. There we go. So it's a little stiff right here. There, good, just like that. Okay, soften there, good. All right, once I start getting him a little softer, and that's still a little stiff, but it can still work as long as the horse is giving to that pressure and not throwing their head upside down doing it. I know that with time, I can make that even softer. The next thing that I want you to be able to do is have that control pulling back, because remember, when you're trying to ride your horse, you need to be able to stop them, you need to be able to back them up. So having that control with the bridle is really important before you get started using the bitless. Okay, so if I pull back on both reins, I want to feel that horse, there we go, will softly get back here, just like that. I can pull on him, he doesn't flip his head upside down, and he backs up nice and softly. Okay, so if you have that control before you switch over to bitless, this transition will be much easier. If you start your horse bitless, it makes it a lot easier than trying to do it from transitioning from the bit to bitless. A horse doesn't know any better when you put the bit in for the very first time as opposed to if you never put it in at all. So if you make sure that when you start your groundwork, if you have a fresh 2-year-old, if you start them with the bitless, they'll go perfectly fine with it just like they would with a bit, okay? But this video is talking more about how to transition from a bit to the bitless, okay? So if you have those key pieces there, being able to pull left, pull right, back up, you have an ability to go ahead and switch over to the bitless, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. As I put it on, the fit is the most important, okay? I need to make sure as I fit it to this horse, first thing, this piece up around the nose needs to be nice and high on the nose. If you feel where the hard part of the horse's nose turns to soft, it needs to be above that. Think of it the same way that you would wearing your glasses. If it comes down too far, you're going to obstruct your breathing. If you put it up nice and high, it feels comfortable, it feels easy, okay? I want to do the same thing. If you go too high, you'll start to have less control. So finding that kind of happy medium is really important. The next thing you're going to notice here is you have the leverage strap that goes underneath. Notice how taut this is onto the horse's face here. This is important that it stays nice and taut. If it's a little loose, it's okay, but it's really important for it to be nice and taut, so that way you can pull left and right and it not really slide through all too much. But again, a little slide is not that big of a deal. In the very beginning, all these halters have a little bit of stretch to them, so it's a little tight right now, but it will stretch to fit even better over time, okay? The next thing you want to make sure that you do is make sure that with this clip here that you have the halter or this clip and knot really nice and tight, so that way it doesn't loosen. I will say in the very beginning, sometimes as the halter stretches, you may need to tighten this up once or twice, but it's really nice for the clip to be able to snap on and off just like that. Now when I put the reins on, it's really important. I put them on the leverage strap. Just let him get used to it there if he happens to have an issue with it. The biggest thing you have to understand is a lot of people think that there's a lot of pressure that gets put down underneath of the leverage strap right here. But really what happens is this leverage strap does more tightening over the top part of the nose than it does under the bottom. If you're unsure of that, as you pull, put your finger underneath here and feel how much pressure gets put here compared to over on top of the horse's nose, okay? Now, one of the things that I would recommend for you to do, if this is a brand new halter to you, or maybe you've never used a rope halter before, to make sure you do a little bit of groundwork with the horse first. That's really important. If you go ahead and hook your lead line or your reins underneath here, do your groundwork with the horse, make sure the horse is getting softly off of this pressure. That way the horse knows what the halter feels like from the very beginning. So if you do that groundwork first, you're gonna be light years ahead before just putting the reins on and going for a ride. But I also know that a lot of people don't always do their groundwork, which they should. So one of the things that this video is trying to cover is if you don't do your groundwork, how you can kind of start with it from the very beginning, teaching this halter to be accepted from the horse. Now, we already did it with the bit. We want to make sure that we can do it without the bit here. Now I'm going to have this halter on. I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to pull to the left, and actually it's a little softer that time. I'm going to pull to the right. Now right here, a little stiff right there, and he's thinking about backing up, okay? Now anytime you change anything on the horse, you're going to notice a little bit of resistance. So we're going to wait. If I need to, let's do this. If he struggles a little bit, I'll just pull him around to the side here, from this side. I'll wait till he softens. Soften a little bit, there we go. Okay, I'll wait, keep pulling. So this way he's a little more resistant, isn't he? Okay, there. Switching from it, he might take a minute to get used to it. There we go. Good. There. And this is what's important. As you switch from the bridle to the bitless, it's like switching bits. When you switch from one thing to another, sometimes they get a little confused. Sometimes they have a tendency to brace up a little bit. But if you take just a minute and make sure that they've gotten used to it, there we go. Then the relaxation starts to set in, and they get a lot softer. There. There, look at that, see? That bracing, if you don't fix that from the ground, you're going to find yourself in a little bit of a hard way when you get on top of the horse. So making sure that when they brace up like that, that you can get them nice and soft, take that extra minute to work through it, you've now fixed your riding issues. So once I get that pretty good, then I want to make sure that when I pull back, that he does the same thing. He gets off of that pressure there. Oh, look at that. Even lowered his head, which he did not do when he had the bit in. That's better. Good. So we want him to know that he did a good job. Whoop, wrong direction. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. That was really nice. Good boy. Good boy. Okay? So being able to get your horse to soften left, right, and backwards before you go to get on, that's all you need to really be able to do to get your horse ready for it. If you've done this and they're soft, you can get on, ride them like you have a bit in, and you're not going to notice a difference. But make sure that you do your homework first, because just like changing a bit, if you do it and just go and ride, I can guarantee you there's going to be a little bit of an issue. Do your homework first, and you'll get a much softer and more enjoyable horse by switching over to the bitless.